When war is portrayed in video games and movies, it's usually from the perspective of the soldiers, the people fighting in the war. You don't get that many movies about the civilian perspective, and when you do, it's usually about some hero, someone saving a lot of people. But the people just trying to get by, the people just struggling to survive, you don't really get movies about them, or at least not very many. The only one I can think of right now, I'm sure there's a few more, but they're not very many, is Grave of Fireflies. It's about two small kids, Sieta and Setsuko, who's just trying to survive towards the end of World War II in Japan. Excellent movie, you should watch that one if you haven't already, but that's not at all what this video is about. If we say it's very unusual with a civilian perspective in movies, it's even more unusual in computer games. Most computer games just put you in the driving seat with a gun in your hand and you go blazing, right? But not this game. This game portrays the struggle of the ordinary people during a war, and it asks a very interesting question of its players, a question that despite me knowing what the game was about, I was not at all prepared for. But let's start this story from the beginning. At the Steam Winter Sale of 2023, I did what I usually do. On Steam sales, I bought a bunch of games because they were on sale. Not because I had actually time to play them, but in case I wanted to play them in the future, so I wouldn't have to buy them at full price at that time. One of the games I bought was This War of Mine. I didn't play it then, I didn't play it until now. There is nothing special about the gameplay loop of This War of Mine. It's been done a bunch of times before. It's a very proven concept of construct and management survival simulation. You have if you have played, for example, Fallout Shelter or Sheltered, you know exactly how it works. You have this little base and you have a bunch of survivors and you go on expeditions to bring out home like food, materials and stuff to improve your base, to improve your chances of survival, and you just keep doing that. So the setting is the middle of a civil war, and you are controlling a few civilians just trying to survive. I knew as much when I started the game, so when I actually stumbled upon a scene with a soldier and a girl while looting a supermarket, I wasn't caught by surprise. At the time, I didn't have any weapons. I mean, I could have run in with my bare fists, but I was quite sure how that would end, so I felt I was forced to just stand and watch. I felt like I couldn't do anything, and I mean, that was rather horrible, but I restarted the game. I kind of wish I hadn't, because I feel like sometimes something is lost when you play this type of game if you don't just follow, like, whatever happens, right? When you try to min-max and stuff like that, something gets lost in that. But anyway, I restarted the game because I thought I will bring a knife or some type of weapon before I actually go to the supermarket. That way I can save the girl. Problem solved. Plus I had also made a bunch of mistakes that I thought I could now improve on when it comes to like the base and everything like that. So next time I brought the knife and I didn't wait for the soldier to even finish talking with the girl. I knew what was going to happen. I just knifed him in the back. Problem solved, looted him, got a gun, got a bunch of bullets, girl saved, everyone happy, I could be the hero, right? Before we get to the heart of the matter how this game broke me, because it wasn't scenes like the scene with the girl, you can solve those, right? You can go in and play the hero at least, maybe not the first time you play the game, but the second time for sure. I need to explain something, and that's how the game works and what kind of sets it apart from a lot of other games, especially in this genre of like colony management. First of all, there is a quite limited amount of places you can loot, and sometimes stuff happens in the game, like there's fighting going on or bad weather, so you can't access a lot of those places, meaning you have even less places to loot, and resources do not respawn in those places, so once you have looted a place, it's empty. So there's a finite amount of resources on the map for you to loot, right? And second of all, a lot of those places are not inhabited by enemies. They're just inhabited by other people trying to survive. It's maybe a hospital, maybe a church, a house with elderly people. And looting those places is stealing. And your characters, the characters you control, will react to that. They have conscience. They have feelings, right? If you steal from the elderly, they might feel bad about that, depending who they are. And I want to be the good guy. I want to save the girl. I don't want to rob a hospital. I don't want to kill elderly people and take their stuff. I want to survive the war without doing a lot of bad stuff. So I tried. So let me tell you what happened. I was controlling 3 characters from the start, Pablo, Bruno and Katja. I felt pretty good about myself. was early on in the game, but I had kind of improved the base quite a lot compared to my first playthrough, since I knew the mechanics of the game. I had saved the girl, and gotten a good gun for it and a bunch of bullets. Nothing could go wrong, right? And then the crime wave hit and I got raided. Just not one night. They raided me night after night after night after night until all my bandages were out and Katja and Bruno were bleeding with lethal wounds. And at this point I caved in. I went and robbed the elderly people because I knew they had medical supplies. I knew as much, and well, I had planned to play the hero, but it was either my characters surviving or, well, not surviving, right? Or robbing the elderly people. I didn't kill them because they didn't attack me when I was stealing stuff, but I still felt bad about it, and my characters felt bad about it. Like Pablo, who were robbing them, he didn't like robbing them, so he got depressed from it. But the thing is, it wasn't enough, because the game just kept hitting me with raids until Katja died. And I mean, Bruno was still lethally wounded, and I had used all the supplies I stole from the elderly people, all the medical supplies, they were out. I had done it for nothing. Pablo was so depressed, not only from robbing the elderly people, but also from his friend dying, that he completely broke down and refused to do anything, even eating. But at this point, two things happened. Emily came by, a new character. She knocked on the door, asking if she could join us. So I said yes, and kids came by. Starving kids asking for food. And despite being in this dire situation, I gave my last food to them, and that made everyone, including Pablo, at least a little bit happy, so he snapped out of his depression. I thought my luck was about to change. I was wrong again. Because then suddenly, most of the places became unavailable to loot due to fighting in the town, except a few ones, but those I had already looted or were populated by civilians. So the game once again was forcing me to choose between the lives of my characters and lives of other civilians just trying to get by. I was forced to steal again just to survive. And then the winter came with snow and ice and cold, and everyone felt sick. And eventually Bruno died from his wounds. I mean, the raids, they hadn't stopped, they just didn't come as often. So he got wounded faster than I could heal him. So it was all for nothing. I had robbed all those places, all those innocent people for nothing. Both my characters that got wounded during the raids died anyway in the end. Now I had only Paolo left from the original characters and Emilia, who joined later, but Emilia is really sick from the winter. And all the safe places to loot, I'm out of them, so it's either stealing or dealing with some very dangerous places. And I was tired of stealing, tired of being the bad guy. I thought that this time I would take on the thugs. I decided to try to get through the game with at least a little bit of dignity intact, right? Unfortunately, stealing from the thugs did not go as planned, and Pablo got surprised and shot, died trying to get food. No one of the original survivors left. Really unfortunately, but I forgot to record the session that Pablo died. I decided to do a last revenge mission. I let Emilia grab the shotgun and knife I had left. I was out of food and meds anyway. I felt like I had nothing to lose. It was time for a last stand. She managed to kill 2 of the thugs and almost a third before dying. I didn't even last 36 days. It's not the places you visit in this world of mine that breaks you. It's what the world does to you and your characters and your choices. It withers you down, if not by raiders, then by the cold and by the sickness and starving, because the game leaves you with no place to loot but the places of innocent. It is what the game forces you to do in order to survive. In the end, you steal and murder just to get food for a few days more. The question that this game asks of its players, and in the most cruel way, is what are you willing to do to survive? So that is the story of my first playthrough of this world of mine, and I learned by playing some more that 36 days is actually quite close to the end of the game. So very ironically, My last character died maybe just days from saving, days from the war being over. I also learned that the events are randomized, so I probably had a lot of bad luck. Not all the events are as harsh, and I was hit with a lot of them after each other that were very hard to deal with, so the playthrough can sometimes be a lot easier. But in a way, I'm kind of glad the game pushed me that hard, because otherwise I wouldn't have been forced to make those decisions. And when talking about decision, it strikes me as I'm wrapping up this video, or the recording of this video, the scene with the soldier. The one where I restarted the game in order to save the girl. I didn't even see if it was possible to talk the drunk soldier out of it, if there was any type of peaceful solution. I just assumed he would be aggressive, and I went straight to murder, with a knife in his back. That was my solution. Anyway, that was all for now. A bit different from my usual content, but give it a thumbs up, maybe a subscribe if you actually did enjoy it. If I get a bunch of likes, I might make more of this type of videos in the future, and if I don't, I might make it anyway, because it's just a hobby channel, so I kind of do what I want. But anyway, that was all for this time.